Hi, I'm Dave Meckie, and you're watching What's Your Story, where you'll meet interesting people doing interesting things in interesting places you'll never see anywhere else. And here's today's story.
Today we're talking to Joseph Brower, who happens to be in Boise, Idaho, and we're in Sandy, Utah, so we're going to do this remote. The reason we're talking to him is because he has a video game company, and it's different than the others because it's really designed to pull families and groups together. Instead of having your son or daughter sitting in the bedroom playing video games while you're downstairs doing Facebook on your smartphone, you can actually do something together as a family and have some fun together. Is that right, Joseph?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. We've always enjoyed seeing people spending time together and having fun together, and we think there's not enough of that in the world, especially with families and friends. And so we've tried to make sure all of our games have a focus on bringing people together, so that they can actually sit next to each other. So
Okay.
much is done remotely. I mean, even this call is remote, but we've tried to kind of counter that and run against that current and do something that brings people together physically, whether it's through this video game or a variety of video games, or even physical games like card games and such. We really want to bring people together so that we can kind of recapture that element of gaming.
If I remember from a week or so ago, you actually have a board game as well, right?
Well, a card game.
A card game.
Actually.
Okay, a card game.
Yeah, we're getting that ready. We've done our first production run, and it's looking pretty good. We've had good feedback. There's a few things we want to tune.
So you've got digital games, and you also have one in the virtual world.
Well, in the physical world, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, help me. All these terms.
It's okay. Sometimes you feel like we're in an acronym soup, with
Acronym soup. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about all that stuff a little bit more here in a minute, but what I'd like to know right off the bat is you're in Boise, Idaho. How does a digital company, a gaming company, end up starting in Boise, Idaho? You're not in Simi Valley or...
Well, I'm not directly in Boise. I'm actually out of Boise a little ways, in eastern Idaho, in a small town called Rexburg.
There's more than one city up there?
There is more than one city, contrary to popular belief. But
I thought it was one city surrounded by a whole bunch of potatoes.
Well, it might be. You could even consider this up to 3 cities surrounded by potatoes.
Okay.
But yeah, there's certainly a lot of agriculture up here. But I've always had an interest since I've been very young. Back when I had hair, we'd focus a lot on I'd make games and I'd play them with my friends and such, and I really enjoyed that. And just kind of through the course of my youth, my family ended up moving up in this area, and I decided it's a nice place to live, and so that's why I'm here. Where did we move from?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Oh, yeah. Well, before living in Idaho, I actually lived in Nebraska, but I had lived all over.
Wow.
I've lived, everywhere from Nebraska to Minnesota to Utah to Oregon to California, all over the place. But I really settled on Idaho. I like the peace and quiet. Potatoes don't make much noise. So.
But they have eyes.
They do have eyes. They're always watching. But
okay, so where did we get this whole concept? I mean, when you were young, you created games, but of course there was no digital stuff going on when you were young. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I made some board games.
Okay. So you decided one day, I'm going to get a couple of specialists that I know together, and we're just going to start making some digital games.
Yeah. I actually had some friends that worked with me in different capacities. And one of them had wanted to make a game for a while. And I said, well, I'm in the middle of one, and I am really terrible at producing artwork and producing music. And he said, well, that's what I do, but I'm really terrible at programming and understanding the operations of a business. And so we actually started working together to produce our first game as kind of a trial run to prove to ourselves that we could do it.
Yeah.
And that was, 4 or 5 years ago now.
Wow.
We
What
did
happened to that first
and
game?
We released it to the world. We showed it off at the Open West Conference after we had finished it. Open West is a technical conference down there in Utah.
Okay.
And we showed it off there, but we put it up on an arcade cabinet. So rather than just saying, "Hey, buy our game," we set it up in such a way that people could kind of crowd around and interact while they were watching it.
Okay.
You know? And,
Okay. Yeah.
And so we had some really good responses from that and really good feedback. And everyone said, "Hey, what about 2 players?" Because it was our first game. We hadn't figured out how to really do 2-player yet.
Yeah.
And so we said, "Okay, well let's try doing 2 players in our next game." And so we just kind of grew from there. Over the last few years, we've produced a few games, and we've always tried to move more and more towards this unifying of friends and family.
Yeah. So, did you have to do anything special to coordinate? I mean, how do you get the whole family to play the same game? They all have to have their own little units, and how's that work?
Yeah, well, we actually we do what's called a local multiplayer. So instead of needing multiple computers or everyone on their phone, you use one machine, and then you have multiple game pads and multiple input devices. So you might have one person using a keyboard, or 2 people on a keyboard, or you might have a bunch of Xbox or PlayStation controllers. If you have a game console, you can hook up to your computer and use those.
Yeah.
And so we've done a lot with that. But when you focus on the local multiplayer instead of online, so there's the two paradigms.
Yeah.
You've got your local multiplayer, which is what we're doing. Online multiplayer, it doesn't matter where they are because you just have to have an internet connection.
Right.
But you lose that connection with them. You lose that physical connection of as you're playing against them, and when you start to totally crush them in the game, you can't look over at them and see their look of terror. So we try to get people to be in the same room, and by enforcing a local multiplayer thing where you've got to be sharing the screen, it's the easiest way to do that, to be honest.
So this is a chance for the family to play something that's digital, but be in the same room in the real world and interact with each other. What's better than that?
Yeah. So that's kind of what we thought.
I can remember when Atari came out, and you bounced the ball back and forth. Or what was the first bounce?
Well, there was Pong.
Pong, that's the
classic
one.
Pong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I first ran into that when we visited some friends, and they said, "Here, try this." But this is miles and miles ahead of this.
It's kind of the next evolution in how these things go.
So you're kind of getting things started. How's the response been so far? Have you had people give you any kind of testimonials, or?
Well, we've had one gentleman from over in the UK, and it's funny because English wasn't his native language. But it was
Yes.
quite interesting seeing his review. He had said that he really enjoyed our games because his son, who was quite young, could play with his grandparents, or this gentleman's parents, and they would all have fun. So it wasn't overly difficult for their son, and it wasn't overly difficult for the grandparents in this case, but they were all still able to play games together.
So the grandparents were there on site with his son?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they enjoyed playing together, and the family just thought that was great, and that was really exciting when we saw that review come in.
Yeah.
Of someone saying, my whole family can enjoy this. It's not just me or me and a buddy. It's my whole family really enjoys your game, and that was really the most rewarding part of everything. Yes, people buy copies and such, but that's not our focus. Our focus is to really make a game that families can come together and enjoy.
Yeah.
And having the affirmation that we did that successfully is always a good feeling.
My son has a few games that he plays remotely with people around the world who he's never met, and he's in his bedroom, and every now and then I hear him saying something like, "Yeah, right," you can kind of hear the excitement of the game, but I'm not in there interacting with him, and really we need more of that, don't you think? I mean, Isn't that kind of the idea behind it? Is that what you had in mind?
Yes, that's really what our focus is. You know, there's a special type of connection when you're, even if you're playing like a board game with someone. I don't know if you ever played Risk.
Oh yeah, sure.
In days gone by, Risk was quite popular. It still has some, or enjoys some popularity.
Yeah, there's
today.
old people that still play it like me.
Yeah. but when you're sitting down with people and you're playing this board game, no, it wasn't the fastest paced thing, but you were really connecting with these people, and you were building friendships, and you were just enjoying the time together. And with these online games, nothing against them, they're still good and they're still fun.
Sure.
But you lose that connection.
Yeah,
and you can't really have your family participate with you, and it's a different focus that those games have.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sensing something here. Basically, while in fact you guys do make digital games, and you have several that have done very well, you've sold a lot of some of those games. It doesn't feel like you're all about digital games. It sounds like you're all about games and fun that a family can play.
Yes.
and enjoy each other. That's kind of the center point. Yes?
Yes. 5-ish years ago when we started this, we thought, we're going to make digital games, we're going to make video games.
Yeah.
And whatnot. But our vision has certainly evolved. As we've seen people enjoying, spending time together, which is odd to say that, hey, spending time together is a new thing, But
it's missing. It's definitely missing. It's missing nowadays.
Yeah.
Good. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah.
That's great.
So yeah, as we've seen people responding so positively to games where you come together, it's evolved our vision a bit. So while the name is Binary Cocoa, we're not stuck only with digital games.
So does it say Binary Cocoa on the card game? Is that the name?
It says that it's a game made by Binary Cocoa.
Okay. Tell us the name again. It's Binary Cocoa. Yes?
Binary Cocoa.
And how do people get in touch with you if they want one of these card games or one of these digital games?
Well, we've got our website, binarycocoa.com.
Binarycocoa.com.
And then our card game, we've actually got a Kickstarter starting up in a bit.
You do?
Try
Wow.
to raise funding.
How do they find you on the Kickstarter?
There's a link on our website to it.
Okay.
And
so binarycocoa.com.
Yep. Everything goes through there. We try to keep life simple.
Yeah.
I've already lost enough here through complexities of life, so I try to keep it simple. But yeah, that's kind of our hub for everything we do. People can keep up to date on what projects we're working on. We try to post about once a week to let people know what we're doing.
Good. Very good. Well, thanks for coming on and talking to us. I'm looking forward to seeing some of your digital games and your card game. And now I've got a good excuse to get my kids together and play games.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much.